What's up, everybody?
How's it going, guys? We got Creo on panel tonight. Hopefully, we get a couple more of the River Cat Tackle guys come in.
Well, you've got the voice of Creole tonight. I won't be blessing anybody with my beautiful face because I'm on the road right now. So this is as much
Right.
as y'all gonna get.
What's up, Susquehanna Stan? So you headed to Arkansas, you said.
Yes, I'm headed to Helena, Arkansas. This is gonna be my last. We are wrapping up the project this week. Thank God, because I got enough of going up there. That's too far from
Right.
home.
Yeah, I know what you mean. When I lived down in Texas, I worked in Louisiana for 3 years. So
Really?
yeah, I've been all over that state, man. From furthest north I've been in that state was Bastrop, Louisiana.
Bastrop. I know exactly where that's at. That's above Shreveport.
Yeah, and there's some up, man. We was all over. There's one small country town we was in, and we was at a McDonald's putting an ATM in. Lady, my buddy I was working with, he convinced her it's a blood machine.
I believe that.
Look, Patrick, catfish junkie.
What's
Yeah,
going on,
she
guys?
then he told her what it was. She was like, "Oh, I'll just keep my money in my mattress and in my walls at the house."
I believe that.
Yeah. Oh, she was old school. She was about 70, 80 years old.
Oh yeah, she didn't trust no banks or nothing like that.
No, not at all. So tonight, guys, we're gonna talk about some winter tactics for catfishing. As you guys know, I'm up in Wisconsin. My catfishing ain't nothing. What's up, Gray Wolf? Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Yeah, see,
So
Lance, you and I are on opposite ends of the scale on that one. For winter, you're pretty much shut down, and
yeah,
for us, this fall and winter season, that's really where things get good, and we really start targeting our big fish as the colder that it gets. And I think that's the same for a lot of people around the country. Is as that water's starting to cool off, these fish start getting into their fall pattern to where they start trying to gorge and stack up for the wintertime. And look, it just is so much opportunity to really, really get on some nice fish at this time of year. It's my absolute favorite time of year of fish is starting right about now.
right. Like up here, when it does get ice, when we do get ice on the rivers and the lakes, there's guys that ice fish and they're not targeting catfish per se, but I've seen pictures of guys pulling 20, 30 pound channel cat out from under the ice.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I can get with a buddy of mine this winter, who knows? I might talk him into drilling some holes, man, and do some ice fishing for catfish because we can go out on the Fox River and which runs into Lake Winnebago up here,
Uh-huh.
and there's some nice catfish, flatheads and channels. So we can we can target them if I can talk them into it this winter.
Now it's interesting you talk about flathead because I'm convinced in our area so far south that I know, like probably in your area, the flatheads will actually go into. I know there's a different name for it, but essentially they go into like a hibernation phase. But I'm convinced that I'm so far south, I don't think they do that. I think they slow down a lot. But as far as to be inactive, I really don't think we have that happen down here.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, up here they say they go dormant, they hibernate, but
Yeah,
you know me, I'm always researching. Channel cat never hibernates.
no, no, they're like the blues. They may slow down, but they're not going to
Yeah,
shut down.
right. And that's why during the winter, like I said, I've seen pictures on Facebook in some of the Wisconsin catfishing groups I'm in. They pull up some nice channel cats.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting if I can talk my buddy into drilling some holes for ice fishing on Winnebago, and because he lives right there, like 3 blocks from the lake up there in Oshkosh. If I can talk him into drilling holes, I'll go ice fishing. I'll do some ice fishing for some cats.
Yeah, we pull some nice channel cat out of here too, man. That's I mean, they'll bite all year round, but that's when they get on them flatties and them blues, man. That's when the struggle starts up here on the Ohio River. Them channel
Cody,
cats,
welcome up, brother.
huh?
I said, welcome up. You figured it out.
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Seeing that you're new to the River Cat Tackle family, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody that's in the chat?
Cool, man. Yep. They call me Cody. Shit. Nickname Redneck Shrooms. Just an average fisherman and a diehard River Cats fan.
Now, how long you been fishing? What got you into fishing?
I've been fishing since I was probably about 6-7 years old, brother.
All right, you've been doing it all your life.
Doing a lot of bass fishing, and then finally decided one night to sit out there with a line in the water and hooked into a big cat, and I've been hooked since.
So, you got anything you do different during the wintertime for these cats?
Yeah, there's one big difference. I bundle up a little bit more than normal, that's for sure.
Right.
Sure. Other than that, I guess a lot of during the wintertime, they not much live bait, a lot of soft bait. But
so you use mainly cut bait and stuff?
Yeah, around here in my parts, a lot of people we fish with goldfish out here. Them goldfish are good bait. One we get some shad and stuff like that. A lot of we call shad squigs. But,
okay.
Yep. When we can get some squigs, I mean, cut bait's good for when the water starts cooling off.
What's up, John? Thanks for coming in, man. Turtle Lady. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, up here, I'm gonna try it during the winter this year. If I talk my buddy into it, we'll try and do some catfishing. But for me, mainly during the winter, I'm doing that burbot fishing.
There you go.
I mean, it's the same. I fish them the same way I do for catfish during the spring. I use Sandy rigs. I use the Carolina rigs and all that. So
yeah, I like them Santee rigs, man. I like little peg. I use about a 3-foot leader with a peg float on there, and they usually do pretty good. I'm a bank warrior, I ain't fishing off no fancy boat. I'm in my kayak here and there, and they're good. I just got some of them River Cat Tackle peg floats, whole bag full of them.
Nice.
A couple creature leaders.
And see, right now, I think this fall pattern that we're starting to come into right now, I really think that if you've got the right spot, if you've got good bank access, that's where these, like what I call these high traffic areas, really start paying off, because you've got a lot of fish that are starting to move in and out because they're feeding heavy. Anytime you can set yourself up on the bank by one of these big ledges, or especially if you've got some kind of confluence, creek mouth, something like that, some type of intersection where you can catch these fish coming in and out, I really believe that it's a bank fisherman's time to shine, because the fish are on the move more, and you've got that much of a better chance of fish coming across your lines.
Right. I mean, I do that, whenever like when I was on the Mississippi, when we went to the west side of the state, I only fished it an hour, but the spot I went to is right there by the dam too. So,
Oh yeah.
but I'm always looking for anything on a new body of water. I'm always looking for a river or a creek coming into the main river.
Yeah, that's my favorite spot to fish too. Is when them creeks meet that riverbank. That's for damn sure. I mean, I got a couple spots I go out to. I got they called Hogan's Creek. Runs right out to the Ohio River. There's a 70-foot hole right there. I mean, it's good fishing when it wants to be, but it's a hit or miss. You think that big deep hole, them fish be sitting in there swimming, eating up some bait, but
Yeah.
I guarantee
you see right now it's interesting because you're going to start getting into that time of year, like I said, with this fall transition, that the fish may not necessarily be in the deepest water you can find.
Yeah, exactly.
They may be there some of the
that
time.
temperature's cooled off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I lived in Texas and it got cold and I could fish for blues and stuff, I would look for shallow waters on the river.
Yeah, that's good fishing. That's one of my preferable spots. Is I like shallow water. A lot of these guys fishing deep, dark holes. I like it when the water's, 15, 20 foot deep.
Yeah.
Hell, I'll throw 10, 20 feet off the bank. Because, I mean, regardless, they're when the sun goes down, they're coming up to eat. They're eating them frogs, all them shad.
Now, do you prefer bigger baits or smaller baits during the winter, though?
See, that's a real good question. I guess I'll just throw one of each out. They're going to, regardless, the catfish are going to eat. It don't matter the size of the bait. They're going to eat. If they're hungry, they will eat.
Yeah,
during the fall, I love throwing. It's my personal opinion that during the fall, up until the water temperatures, I'm going to say from the water temperatures are for sure 60 degrees and above during the fall, there's no such thing as too big of a bait. You can really, really throw some big baits. These fish are aggressive. They're feeding heavy. They're really trying to gorge up for the winter. Now, once the winter time actually hits, for me, you're talking water temperatures in the mid 50s and below, down into the 40s. I tend to downsize my baits, but it's not just a matter of a smaller bait. I change the profile of my bait. I want what I like to call a shorter bait. I don't want a whole bunch of meat sticking out beyond my hook, because especially during the winter, those catfish tend to not really hit those baits real hard. They tend to be a little more finicky on the bite. And I find if you use a bait that's too long, they'll hit the bait but not really engulf it, and they won't get the hook. You end up missing fish. During the winter, that's when I start, let's say, cutting gut pockets off of cut bait and things like that, going to a shorter profile of bait.
Right. Yeah, I do that. That's what I do for burbot. I mean, yeah, it's a different fish, but it's wintertime.
Yeah.
I come and they feed just like they'll feed just like a flathead. They'll pick that bait up. You can see that line move, and then
they'll sit with it.
It'll sit right there.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then all of a sudden, man, like I was telling you when we was backstage, Creo, that almost that 10-pound burbot, he picked that bait up and he just he sat there. I watched the line move about 2-3 foot to the right. Next thing I know, he just took off. I picked the rod up, and once I picked it up, that was it. That guy was headed back out.
Oh,
He was headed back out to Lake Michigan.
Yeah, he was on his way out of there.
He felt
Yeah.
you playing with him.
Yeah.
He was going to play back.
So, like, to me, they have the same characteristics as a flathead. I mean, like Epic said, because he said since I started fishing for him, he started researching them, and they're the only other freshwater fish, he said, that they pretty much have the same characteristics as a flathead.
Yeah.
Hey, and
They eat the bluegill. It's a burbot.
That's up in Wisconsin.
Yeah. It is a freshwater cod is what it is.
Nice.
But they eat the same thing. I've caught them on stink bait. I've caught them on cut bait. And I've caught them on live bait. And my buddy cut one open last year. It was a 6-pounder. It had 3 hand-sized bluegill in its gut. Which tells me they're exactly what I was saying. They're just like a catfish. They actually ambush their prey.
Yeah, they hunt. They're active predators. I know they're from what I understand, they're a kind of distant cousin of the bowfin. Because they look very similar, and it's the same thing. They are really, really aggressive predators.
Yeah. But
a lot of the blues that I catch up here during the winter, I cut them open and bring them home, and they got a belly full of clams.
Yep. Yeah, we actually used some mussels for bait one time, and we actually caught a couple. Caught a couple channel cats on mussels. That was during the summer, but I'm starting to think if I can use that during the winter for my burbot fishing.
Right. Heck yeah.
But the theory is right now is that's the reason people can catch catfish on chicken breasts is because it mimics the mussels and the, whatever else these fish are eating, but it mimics the mussel meat. That's why that's what they think chicken is whenever they bite it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that same.
A lot of people use that, like they mix it with Kool-Aid and stuff, and strawberry chicken and stuff.
Yeah.
There's guys that have been doing some tests on YouTube. I know Dieter Melhorn has done it. I know Palmetto Cats has done it. I can't think of anybody else right off the top of my head, but they've actually tested just plain old chicken breast, nothing on it, right against the ones with the Kool-Aid and everything else in it. And to be honest, their catch ratios are about the same, whether you use it plain or if you put all that other stuff on it.
Right. I think if I was to use just the chicken breast, if I was to use chicken, I would use the thighs, just because it's got more oil.
I like the hearts.
Oily.
I like using chicken hearts.
Now you see, for channel cats, stuff like that'll work pretty good for channel cats and like your small blues, eater size, and things like that. But I know for us down here, you start getting to these blues that are for sure like 20 pounds and over. There's just no replacement for that good bloody cut bait. Big chunks of fish, basically.
Yep.
And at this time of year, the bigger the better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not scared at all of throwing a whole skipjack 16, 17 inches long just with the tail cut off and a double hook rig. I have no problem throwing a bait that big.
Yeah, that's a good piece of bait. That's a damn good piece of bait right there.
You'd be surprised. I have caught many a 15, 16-pound blue on a bait that size.
Parker said he prefers plain chicken, especially for bigger fish, boneless thighs.
Yeah, and look, there's one right there. He has caught a lot of big fish on
Yes.
chicken, and I know that upsets a few people, but hey, you know what? You cannot argue with results. You cannot.
Exactly. I mean,
Right.
if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if you're catching the fish you want to catch, I'll never argue with anybody about what you're doing is wrong. If you're happy with what you're catching, then whatever you're doing is correct. It's working for you. Now, if you want to catch something different, you want to catch more, you want to catch something bigger, then okay. Then there's room for improvement. If you're happy with what you're catching, don't let nobody tell you you're doing anything wrong.
Right.
Right. That's right.
Creek said he prefers the fish that's in the water.
Yeah.
Whatever he eats.
And for us, that's what worked. Because look, I can go catch a ton of eater size fish on chicken. I've done it many, many times. But we've proven, at least in my area, that if you want bigger fish, you got to feed them fish. That's just what works for us.
Yeah. Everybody's water seems it's different.
Opposite down here. Everybody says bigger bait, bigger fish. Well, that's not always the case. I mean, I've thrown out a couple, 2-3 inch pieces of bait and caught some nice fish.
Well, that old saying is true, but not for the reason that most people think it is. That saying is true, not that the bigger bait attracts the big fish. You're eliminating catching the smaller fish. You're only going to catch a big fish on that big bait. Now, do big fish still eat small baits? Absolutely. They do.
Yes, sir.
And that's the reason why I like to fish with as big a bait as I think I can, simply because I don't want that smaller fish. I want the biggest fish I can possibly get, and I don't mind passing up the chance to catch a smaller fish if it means I'm going to get that one
bigger fish. Right.
Yeah, that's the way I fish. That's the way I am.
Right.
What's up, guys?
What's up, brother?
What's up?
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Bigger bait, bigger fish. But sometimes that's, in my opinion, it's just how hungry they are and when they're ready to eat.
It's true at certain times and in certain situations. It's true. It's not using bigger baits does not necessarily increase your chance of catching a bigger fish. It increases your chance of not catching a smaller fish.
Right.
That's what it does.
Yes, sir.
There's been times where we've thrown really, really big baits and couldn't get a bite. Well, we start downsizing, then all of a sudden we start getting bit. That's just, sometimes you have to sometimes ignore what you want to do and do what the fish tell you to do.
Right. What's up, Vern? What's up, Johnny? Patrick?
Howdy.
So what you guys?
My service gonna be crap.
Huh?
My service ain't gonna be too good for a little bit, but whenever it is, I'll start talking.
Yeah, I see the video is kind of skipping a bit.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, man?
And bigger hooks do.
Going on, Johnny?
I believe the bigger hooks do eliminate smaller fish too.
Oh, absolutely.
They do for the most part, but I tell you, I have caught many a 2-pound blue on a 10-aught hook. Don't think that big hook still ain't gonna catch a small fish.
Right. Man, we've caught bullhead on a 10-aught on the 10-aught hook.
Oh wow.
Little 2-pound bullhead, man, or 1-pound bullhead. Next thing you know, you're reeling in. It's about a pound and a half bullhead.
I mean, if you
Oh
if you
hell,
really
I've used bluegill the size of my hand and caught a 8-pound shovel head.
oh absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I caught this past spring. I caught a nice. Well, he was a little 7-pounder at the most. Caught him on a little bigger than a hand-sized bluegill.
Yeah, the piece of bait was just about as big as the fish. It's like, all right, he was.
Hey,
hungry.
what's up? Hey, what's up,
What's
everybody?
up, man?
I had to jump out and jump back in. I didn't know what was going on. My phone was skipping. But hey, I just wanted to put some input on the winter fishing and
Yeah.
the tactics I use. What
Yeah.
I do is, okay, I'll anchor down in some current. I'll fish a spot 15 minutes. And now this is a spot that I marked fish. If them fish don't bite in 15 minutes, I lift the anchor. I go a cast distance and anchor back down and cast back out. I do that all the way back to the boat launch. So basically, I go upriver. I give it 15 minutes. If I mark fish, if they don't bite, I lift that anchor, let the boat drift down, and then I anchor back up about cast distance, and I do that all the way back. And I cover a lot of water. And in the winter, I see a lot of people that just ride on the boat, and they don't realize they're going over a lot of fish. They're lethargic. They're not trying to chase bait. I do put big bait out, and then I put small bait out. I put a variety. And
Right.
that's the way I fish in the winter. And most of my good fish come in the winter. So that's all I wanted to jump in here and say. I have most of my fish come in the winter that I catch that are a good size. And that's always been a great way that I cover a lot of water and catch fish. So.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me ask you something, Johnny. What about the Bank Warriors? What do you got Smith up for the Bank Warriors?
Hey, look, let me tell you something. From the bank, no matter what time of year, if that sun comes out and there's bait fish where I'm fishing at from off the bank, I catch fish. I got some spots that are probably 3 foot of water, and in January, now I'm in a different probably environment than up north, but when that sun hits them sandbars and them bait fish go up there, there's usually catfish not far behind them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
On that, can y'all hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We
sir.
got you,
On
Patrick.
that note, man, I used to be a bank warrior before I got my boat about a year and a half ago, and what I found just by I never knew how deep the water was. I was just always judging by when I threw out to whenever I felt the weight hit the bottom. So what I normally did is I would find a spot that I think looked decent where they're like, well, I hunted turn holes. If y'all know what that is, where pretty much everybody knows, where it's in a corner and you can actually see that water actually going back up current.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
Yeti.
you're fishing the
Yeah.
eddies.
You're fishing eddies. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one spot in particular, like I think I heard Creo saying earlier, there was actually a ledge there. It went from like 3 foot, it drops down to like 40, like really quick.
Oh yeah.
And I'd actually throw a couple baits on the shallow end, and then I'd throw some in the deep end. And depending on what time of the year, I always had my luck during the summer in the shallow part, and during the wintertime in the deep holes. But it's vice versa because during the summertime I do better shallower waters most of the time, and in the winter I do better in the deeper. I mean, I guess I just hunting that water temperature.
I would have to agree with that because I feel like in the deeper holes, when the colder weather, they're down there trying to they're warm.
Yeah.
Well, the deeper you go in depth, the more consistent the water temperature is. And that's really what the fish are looking for to be comfortable. And when I mean comfortable, that means the fish is comfortable that it's going to survive where it is. It's just as simple as that. And with consistent water temperature, they are comfortable. And when they're comfortable, then they can worry about feeding. But if they're not comfortable for whatever reason, whether the temperatures are swinging or you've got current change, any change to their environment, the catfish are their first concern is survive.
Yeah.
Which
Correct.
that's what I mean when I say comfort.
And they
Their
were
Right.
first
resilient
instinct
too.
is survive. They're going to get somewhere in their environment where they are comfortable. Then once they're comfortable, then they're going to worry about feeding.
Correct.
That's why when you've got these big weather systems that come in, or temperature changes, fronts, river coming way up, river coming way down, rainfall, that these are changing conditions that the fish are trying to adapt to. Well, when they're trying to adapt to their environment, they ain't worried about eating anything.
Yeah,
Once they're
exactly.
comfortable, then they're going to eat.
Yeah.
And Creech brings up a good point. There'll be nighttime and daytime patterns
Oh yeah.
for these fish.
See, I don't know if it's just because this year's been different, but y'all know this summer's been it's been pretty rough down here,
Oh yeah.
on our end, and the only spot you can find them on my little stretch of river that I fish is them deep holes, because I mean everywhere else it's been a foot and a half. Which, don't get me wrong, I know you can catch catfish in that shallow water too.
Yeah, because
But I mean,
they got to eat. They're coming up on them banks.
Yeah.
You know, they want some of them frogs or whatever it is.
yeah. But I mean, I just been finding them in them deep holes, and the deepest hole that I got that I fished, it's I think it's right at like 50 feet. I mean, and it's a
That's a
pretty
good
good
hole.
distance. What it is, it's an old
Oh,
it's old gravel pit that the actual river is overtaken. So now, I mean, it's like an old dead lake in there, which is part of the river now, and I mean, it produces. So I mean,
keep
because on
fishing.
each side of that lake, which where the river feeds it, I mean, it's shallow. I mean, I'm talking about right now at this time that we're talking about, it's probably 8 inches deep on either side, maybe a foot on the bottom side.
Wow.
But when you get to that lake,
Hey,
it's
man.
deep. So
That's when you get your seine net out.
Yeah, I know for me, fishing from the bank, I like to put one line, because here in Wisconsin we can only use 3 rods. So I always throw one way out, and then I'll throw one about half the distance of that first rod, and then I'll put one in the shallow,
Hell yeah.
just to see, just try to find the fish where they're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give them a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
The best of both worlds.
yeah,
That's the
Yeah, I
same
mean,
in
with
Ohio. We're only limited to 3 rods ourselves. So you really got to pick and choose on what you want to do and where you want to drop them lines.
Yeah, whenever you're reading your water, you gotta be smart about where you're putting those baits, because
Mm-hmm.
you can have the best bait in the world. It does
Right.
not matter if you're not putting it where a fish is going to get to it.
That's
Right.
I agree
You've
with
got
that.
to be able to eliminate water. Identify those areas. Especially for a bank fisherman, it is so important that because if you really think about it, as a bank fisherman, what are the odds that you're going to throw your rods out and happen to hit a fish right in the face off the bank?
Exactly.
It's not all that good. You are very dependent on fish moving through your area
Yeah.
and catching the fish as they're moving through. So you've got to identify those ledges, those intersections, those confluences, anything like that that's going to create a lot of traffic, a lot of fish going back and forth. And that's why the patterns, time of day, tends to be so important, is when those fish are going to be active and moving, give you your best chance to get on some fish.
Heck
so,
yeah.
The advantage we have in a boat is, or a kayak, any way you can be mobile, is we can physically go out there, mark fish, and throw baits in their faces. Now, whether they eat or not, we have no control over that. We may have to bounce around and actually find active fish that are feeding.
Right.
A good tip for, I mean, it's not very accurate, but a good tip for bank fishermen is what I was saying earlier. You can throw your bait out there, and if you actually hold on to your line, you'll actually feel the weight hit the bottom. So, I mean, you can kind of judge if you'll throw in a spot that you know how deep it is, and you can throw it out there and feel how long it takes for your weight to hit the bottom, and then throw in one of the deeper holes. And if you do the same thing, you can guesstimate. I mean, it ain't gonna be accurate, but you can guesstimate on how deep of a hole you fish.
Right.
Yeah.
You let your line drop when you feel it hit the bottom. Yeah. See how much you spooled out, and then
Yep.
What's up, Parker?
What's going on?
Jerry?
How it doing? You guys talking about that winter bite. The one thing you really gotta take in consideration in winter time, especially like in the Midwest and everything, where your water temperature's down in the 40s or lower, you have a very, very, very short bite window
Yep.
during the course of a day.
Yeah.
It may only be an hour, 3 hours, but it's just a
Right.
very short window a lot of times during that time of the year, because the metabolism slow down. They don't need to eat as much, you know. So,
yeah,
and even like flyheads and everything, they hardly eat during winter, but they hardly lose any body weight during the course of the winter because they just slow themselves down so much.
Well, see, them tabbies, they'll sit there. They're like an ambush predator. They'll sit there and let the bait come to them.
Look, in our part of the country, once that water temperature gets in the low 50s, it's done. The flathead bite, it's done. But
Yeah.
the blue cat bite, it gets insane
insane. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
during the winter months, you know.
See, that's
You don't
the winter
necessarily-
months. Is whenever I caught my biggest blues. So, so I know the blue bite's better in the winter. For me.
Yeah. Because
And
keep in mind,
caught my biggest flathead midsummer. So that's basically telling you what you're saying there, how the bite's different in the different seasons.
because remember, especially the blues, they have to eat year round. They can't afford to shut down, or they're not going to survive. And you got to keep in mind that in average water temperatures in the 60s, something like that, which is what we're going to be encountering this fall here very soon. A blue has got to eat on average 20% of its body weight every day to just sustain itself. That's not even to gain weight. That's just to sustain itself.
Right.
So that blue has got to eat. So imagine what that blue has to ingest every day to put on a lot of pounds and gorge coming up for the winter. They have to stay active.
Well, one thing too in the winter, you have to make modifications to your tackle and your gear. Cause, once in a while you'll still get that massive hard takedown, but a lot of times it'll be that more slow, deliberate, just kind of half bending the rod, and they just lay there a lot of times.
Yeah, they're sitting with.
So you got to sometimes change the rod action and everything. So
the dead of winter is the only time that you'll see me start to use sinker slides for that reason, because the bite will get so finicky up to a certain point. There's times where I've had to throw my anchoring rods out, let everything get set up, then I'll actually disengage my reel and turn my clickers on. That way, if that fish really wants to bite real light, they'll grab it, and that sinker slide will let them run just a little bit. It'll give them that little bit of confidence to go ahead and ingest that bait, and then I can get a hook in them. whenever I'm getting a lot of short strikes where they'll pick up the bait and drop it when the rod goes to go down, that's a big time trick that I use in the dead of winter to give those fish a little confidence to go ahead and take that bait and get that hook.
And go to a faster tip rod.
Yep.
A more sensitive rod tip. Like I'll drop down to a medium action rod, or else like bank fish a lot of times, I'll change the angle of my rods a little bit because it don't take much in the wintertime. They feel that resistance. They're done all the time.
See, I do the same thing. I run the 3345 monsters on the back of the boat, and what I'll do during the winter, I'll actually lay them down to the 33-degree angle, a little bit lower. You know, that way they don't feel that resistance to that rod so much. It gives them a little better chance to get on it.
Heck yeah.
Now you're part of the country, Parker, from the bank or from the boat. Since you fish on the boat too now. What areas do you prefer during the fall and the winter?
Right now, I'm targeting still your wing dyke seams right now. The fish are still really, the water temperature's still in the 70s right now here. So they're really targeting that current, because especially the blues, I always try to find that current. You know, and I like those wing dykes to the seams, or I like the inside bends of the river where it cuts in that pocket this time of year. But as it starts getting colder, I try to target these deeper holes a lot of times on these bigger, longer wing dykes. You'll still have a little bit of current, but you got the depth, but not too swift a current. Kind of spots I look for in the winter.
That's slower.
I'm looking for
moving water.
50 plus foot of water is what I'm looking for in the winter.
But you guys got anything else?
Got any questions from the audience?
I don't see no questions in chat. If anybody has questions or anything, just drop them in chat. We'll get these guys to answer them.
We fished today, and everything we caught today was in like about 30 foot of water, but with a lot of current. But it was right on a ledge. That's everything we caught today.
What's the water temperature where you're at right now, brother?
70 degrees. Right at 70. So, but I think it's supposed to warm up a little later in the week. But if it keeps going, like this morning, we woke up, it was 39 here. If we get a few more mornings like that, that water temperature is going to start being, it's going to be in the 60s really, really quick.
And that right there gets me excited, because that means Jerry is fixing to send me some cold water down my way, which we desperately need. So that gets me when Jerry gets cold water like that, it's about 7 or 8 days before it gets to me. So I like it.
Woo! Man, I wish I could get down to at least Missouri and fish with Jerry and Richard and stuff, but we'll see.
Well, we'd love to have you, brother. You know,
I ain't fishing blues.
That's gonna be a big powwow, man.
And see, and another thing that a lot of people are gonna, either they're starting to deal with it now, or they're gonna very soon. Now, I don't really fish lakes very much. I know some of y'all do, but that fall turnover is fixing to happen. If it hasn't already happened on some of these lakes where you have a little bit of a thermocline built up, this rapid cooling off on top, it's going to start getting those lakes to turn over, which once that turnover comes and goes, it's going to really, really turn those fish on in the lakes.
Well, right now, a lot of lakes around here, there's been a pretty consistent thermocline line.
Yeah.
And everything above that thermocline. But like you're saying, Jeremy, once that does turn over, it's gonna be on like Donkey Kong.
Oh yeah, you better believe it. It's gonna take that that little phase during the turnover. Once it kind of settles out, oh yeah, it's gonna get good.
So Jerry,
yeah,
what hooks are you using now for your catfishing?
River cat tackle hooks.
Yeah, baby.
What do you
Love
think
'em.
about those hooks?
I love them. And I also use some of the Mad Cat stuff here because I'm pro staff of Mad Cats. But the 12-aught, I'm using the 12-aught River Cats tackle. Them thing are a bad beastly hook. I love throwing them big baits, and that's I love them hooks for them big baits, man.
That sucker
Eh,
got a wicked offset on it too, don't it?
yes, they
Oh
do.
yeah.
And the weight, which I wish I had my tackle bag with me because the way that barb is on that thing's got the hook. Man, once that fish gets that thing buried, it's really hard for that hook fish to shake that hook.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that right there, that's that 9-aught. That's the 9-aught circle hook. And that 12-aught, John did send me a pack of them when I went and fished the Mississippi. Man, it makes these 9-aughts look like a little baby hook.
Yeah, it does.
No doubt.
Yeah, them,
But
them
it
That's the big
wells ain't no
thing.
joke. I like it.
If you're gonna throw those big baits, you gotta have that wide gap type style hook.
Yep.
With that offset, because a lot of times, them fish will clamp down that bait, and with a smaller gap hook, it won't penetrate. And plus, that thinner wire, the river cat tackle, they're gonna penetrate. I mean, like that compared to a thicker wire hook. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like them. I mean, being pro staff, for them. I was actually surprised they asked me because I don't catch much fish, but that's some of the best hooks I've used. I've used all
that's
kinds of
true.
hooks. I've fished with circle hooks all my life. Coming from Hawaii, we use circle hooks, and I mean, it wasn't a big change for me. What really was the change for me was when I moved to Texas and everybody was using J hooks back in the day. And that was back in 98 when I moved there. So I actually had to get used to running and setting the hook on a fish because it was J hooks. And then I got out of fishing for several years, came back, and next thing I know, circle hooks are everywhere, man. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, circle hooks are the thing. Like, oh, well, this is going to be easy for me.
Yeah.
Well, the big difference you'll see between the saltwater guys and the freshwater guys, a lot of your saltwater guys don't snell them.
Yeah.
Well, versus if you snell them circle hooks, man, that's night and day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
night and day hookery. I mean, your hook ratio will go through the roof if you start
Yeah.
snelling.
And you got to snell them the correct way. I've always
Yes.
snelled my hooks. I've been snailing hooks all my life. I was 8 years old, and my uncle got me into really tying my own hooks. So I snell all my hooks. I always have. Even my J hooks, I'll snell my. I know how to tie other knots, but that's what I'm comfortable with, and it's never failed me.
Hey, they hold very well, man. See,
Yeah.
I tie the creature leaders river cat tackles, and the hooks are all snell knots, man. And I run them in freshwater and I run them in saltwater. I don't know if y'all got the chance to watch my live, but I got my mom on a really nice red on them new
Sure.
8-aught crimson wide gap hooks
Yeah.
that we testing
How
out.
is the
So,
testing going for those? How you liking those red
man,
hooks?
I fell in love with them, dude. I mean, with that wide gap, I mean, yeah, it's bigger than the original, the 8-aught. And
Yeah.
man, whenever I was getting the hook out of that red, because I mean, I sent pictures, or you can look on the live, and I actually showed the hook. I mean, right in the corner with that wide gap, it was just so easy just to roll that hook right back out the same hole, man. I mean,
Yeah, heck yeah.
I mean, same way with that big black drum my son caught, man. I got a picture that I put. I mean, it's on Facebook, TikTok. I mean, it hooked him right under the bottom of the jaw, and I mean, you just same thing, just able to push down and roll that wide gap right on out. I mean, it's and unbelievably sharp, man. I got a big cut on my thumb where I was tying them on to my the creature leaders that I tied them on. Got myself really good.
Yeah, that's another thing. Those hooks, all of River Cat tackle hooks, they're extremely sharp.
That's
And if
right.
And
you
I
got
know
any
that.
J
And every
hook,
time I get a new pack of hooks in, what do? I stick my finger in that dang bag.
yeah. Hey,
Because
and if
now
we got
getting
any J
in,
hook guys out there in the audience, man, we got J hooks too. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, we do.
And I mean, now I'm getting into actually targeting carp. I'm actually using the J hooks, the number 4 J hooks, to make my own hair rigs. So we're gonna start using the River Cat tackle hook specifically for carp up here.
Ah, cool.
I don't know if any of y'all seen them in person, but them 10-aught J's that John's got, dude, they're stupid. They're huge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beast of a hook.
Which would be great for the live bait, like
Yeah,
flathead fishing.
yeah.
Cause a lot of times in flathead, they'll just mouth that bait and not enough where you can really reel down them, but you can swing and put a fence on them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's the one thing with a circle hook. It is more or less dependent on the fish turning and going the other way. That way
Right.
it sets it in
Right.
the corner of the mouth. And sometimes there's, especially big ones, there's
What's up,
flatheads that get
JVP?
missed because they're sitting there facing you. They're sitting there facing you. You go to reel down, and the circle hook sometimes really can't do its job unless
Right.
it's
What's
got
up,
a
Danny?
really aggressive offset like ours have. But that's
Yeah.
where those J hooks really shine. Is no matter which way that fish is turned, you can go ahead and just rear back and cross his eyes, and you're gonna get him.
Especially the people that like to run off the bank, and just slam into one. I mean, them
Yep.
Yeah.
where it's
Yep.
at.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys up here, they prefer the J hook for flatheads,
Yep.
just
Yeah, because you can
specifically
actually,
for that
because,
reason.
Yep.
well,
Just
if
to
you ask Johnny
slam
Nesco, I
into
mean, like him, when he's targeting flathead, he's fishing them log jams, and with that J hook, as soon as he goes down on it, you want to yank on him and get him out of them logs.
yeah.
Yep.
You don't want him to run with it, and if you set
Right.
the hook on a circle hook, you 9 times out of 10 gonna yank the hook out of his mouth.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got one more person coming up. What's up, John?
Oh goodness.
What the hell all y'all doing?
The plan right there.
Not
All
much,
y'all,
man.
all y'all folks are trying to hide behind me, man. Y'all are sneaking on me over here.
Yeah.
What's up, Cold Creek?
Speaking of old and ugly,
You
Yeah.
ain't never lied. And it ain't never gonna change, brother.
Yeah.
no,
It
no, it
ain't
only gets
changing.
worse from there.
But I come in here to say, yeah, we got hooks, but we also, man, we got floats, we got 3-way swivels, we got barrel swivels, we got all kind of good stuff.
Yeah, we
Right.
got
Yeah.
everything you need.
Y'all can check out the apparel and everything.
Apparel, everything. But I know Jerry's been using the hooks. He's been running the 12s. Great feedback from him. He loves the hooks. But Jerry, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is a live show, right?
Yes, sir.
I got a question for you. How would you feel to be pro staff for River Cat Tackle?
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Well, it's yours.
I appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
I
It's
appreciate
yours.
Welcome to the family, brother.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Welcome to the family, Jerry.
You know,
Glad to have you, man.
didn't want to do this publicly until we felt and had your honest opinion on what you thought about the product. That's all.
Well, I know a lot of these guys are already on the pro staff. Creel, Richard, Lance. I mean, Creel's kind of like that messed up cousin you keep hitting in the basement. But,
He's 7'2". He's 7.
That's what that's what I've heard. That's what.
I myself, I am very excited to have Jerry on pro staff because now we actually have somebody famous on pro staff.
listen here.
I actually have somebody famous with just millions and millions of views from all over the world.
Yeah.
Love you too, Jerry.
Yeah. Oh man.
Man, I didn't know we was getting. I didn't know we was getting that kind of ordeal going on.
Oh, hey, I'm telling you, go check it out. I'm telling you, millions of views.
I stepped in a big old bucket of. I ain't going there.
Yeah, you did.
Well, my OnlyFans is a pretty big deal, so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a different live show right there.
What's the username?
Yeah.
Well, Jerry,
Chunky
Like I
Pursuits.
you gonna make it down to Mississippi this coming August?
Oh well, that's a ways off, so it's a possibility. But god dang, why in the heck would I want to go to Mississippi in August?
Well, hang on. Let me tell you. The reason in August is you familiar with Mississippi River Tournament, right?
Yeah.
You familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are going to have at least one boat in that tournament.
Okay.
The River Cast Tackle. And we're working on a second boat.
Okay.
On having two boats
There
in the
will
tournament.
be a booth.
And we will have a booth.
Well, I might be able to make that happen. August, a long ways off. I mean, as long as never done interference, I should be able to make it.
It's just we as a group and as a company, we figured it would be a good deal for the company to do what they could to get these boats in that tournament. And we're going to have one guaranteed for sure.
Yep.
That's a fact. But I'm working on number 2.
And Jerry, I'll give you 2 guesses of who's crazy enough to captain the first boat for River Cast Tackle. But I bet you only going to need one.
Well, you let me hop in the boat, Jeremy, and I'll make sure I make that trip.
Hell, hey, you got a seat, brother. Don't worry about that. If you come down, you got a seat.
There's going to be a seat somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to, like I said, we're going to do, that one's locked in. We're going to do our damage to make sure number 2 is in there also.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, winning it would be fine and dandy, but you know what? When you got a group that gets together and make things happen, win or not win, it's a win either way you look at it.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Hey, Jerry Richard said you guys can carpool from Missouri.
That's perfect. That's even better. Heck yeah.
Well, I can tell you now, I don't ever show up with the intent on losing. I can tell you now, it may happen, but that ain't gonna be my intent. I'm gonna give them hell.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. But y'all know, as part of River Cast Tackle, it's just about being together with everyone.
Yep.
Right.
Winning would be fine. It would be nice. It would be great. But hey, if we can get a group of brothers that's this big together in one spot at one time, we've succeeded.
Oh, you know I'm going to be there.
Yep. But
I'll be there too.
we're
Jerry, I'm glad to have you as part of this now.
Yes, sir. Me too.
glad to be happy, delighted to come aboard.
That's a good thing. Yes,
All
indeed.
right. Anybody else got anything they want to say?
Has anybody got any questions?
No, we ain't got anybody in chat got questions about River Cat Tackle? Like we said, we got the hooks, we got everything to go with it. We got the swivels, we got the floats, the rattles, if you like that.
We got
We got
creature leaders.
we got creature leaders. We got jerseys, hats. We got it all. Just go to the website and check it out. But on that note, if nobody's got nothing else, we're gonna go ahead and end this and see you guys next week.
Yeah, y'all have a good one.
Yeah, because
Have a
most,
good night.
most of these guys all got to get up and go to work in the morning,
Yeah,
just like me.
exactly. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for coming in.
Y'all have a good
Yes,
one.
sir.
I appreciate you having me, brother.
Yep.
Y'all have a good night.
Later.